We are not so different. Good morning, my We Are Not So Different family. Thank you for choosing to spend another morning with me. I appreciate all mama's babies. Come on in close, come on in close. This week's guest, we have Miss Hope, correct me, Mirlis?
Mirlis, close.
So close. Okay, Miss Hope Mirlis. Hi, Hope. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're so welcome. I'm super excited. So Miss Hope is she officiates weddings and so wedding yoga, premarital counseling. She's got a lot going on. And I promise to give you guys all the details of where you can find her later. But I'm super excited because this month is all about relationships. Marriage, love and marriage, partnership, even divorce. We're doing all things relationship related. And I'm like, how good of a chance is it to get in on someone who gets like the before picture, before everything is like, can I say like consolidated or brought together? Like you get to see like the before and during, if you're also, well, you're premarital counseling. Do you do wedding counseling as well? Like marriage counseling?
For the most part, I work with couples before marriage.
Okay.
There are occasionally couples that come and they reach out to me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they're getting married. And I'm like, we can't do this work fully because you're planning a wedding and I don't want to take that time. So sometimes I start with a couple and say, let's pause, go get married, go have your honeymoon or whatever you're going to do to celebrate. And then when you're ready, come on back and we'll finish. But for the most part, I work with them pre.
Gotcha. Excellent. Well, that's what I wanted. And this is what we're getting. So y'all know the drill. Get your favorite spot on the couch and find your favorite drink, whether that's Kool-Aid or Cavassier, and tune in with this conversation. So, Miss Hope, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the format, but each and every one of my guests gets the same 2 questions, just so my listeners and or my viewers can get get to pick your brain a little bit. So, first question. If you had the undivided attention of an audience of your choosing, who would said audience be and what would you tell them?
I think for the most part, it would make a lot of sense to get a lot of wedding couples or couples that are just engaged or just went through a beautiful proposal and had them, all together at the same time. Probably what I would tell them is, to really look at what the engagement process could be for them and really let them envision what that timing could be, that it's not just about planning a wedding, but it's also preparing for marriage. Mostly because a lot of times I get those couples on the later side after they realize they should have taken the time and then maybe they need to rush. They need to rush it.
Okay. What does that look like? Well, okay, you say you get those couples that are on the backside that they should have taken the time to what, like dig deeper into what marriage looks like or what marriage will become as opposed to just planning for the wedding?
Well, or they reach out to me closer to the wedding where they may not have enough time. Or I have couples that reach out to me just to officiate their ceremony and they're like, oh, wow, if we realized this earlier, maybe we could have.
Gotcha.
Maybe we could have done this work with you.
Okay.
The other group that I would really love to have an audience with are other wedding professionals. And I've started doing that a little bit, but by no means have I exhausted it yet. And really being able to talk to those in the wedding industry, whether they're planners or photographers or, hair and makeup artists or DJs, to really give them the tools that they may need to empower their couples to focus on their relationships. Because a lot of times from what I hear, that these amazing wedding professionals get really close with their couples. So get these vulnerable conversations thrust upon them, and they can't do their jobs. So they're now all of a sudden dealing with family relationships. They're dealing with, decision makings. They're dealing with financial concerns. And they're having to kind of deal with those things first, and not like looking at what songs they can play for the first dance.
Wow.
Or, looking at, some ideas of, what hair and makeup could look like, or, what a bespoke suit could look like, because they're now dealing with things that they don't necessarily want to or have the capacity to deal with.
I didn't think about that, but you're right, because I remember my hairstylist, and she went on to be like my friend. Like, I kept seeing her, but you're right. Like, I guess it's like something very vulnerable about people who you're inviting them into a personal part of your life, and whether that is just hair or whether that is just makeup. So that means you get to see all my oily skin, all my porous, like you get to see like all of my imperfections. And then if you're comfortable enough letting someone in that close to actually see you, then why wouldn't you feel comfortable enough to disclose, like, the inner workings of your planning? I never thought about that. So yeah, okay, so you want to be like, kind of like a coach to I can't say coaches, so what would we say? A coach to
it's really like an advocate for the couples through the wedding professionals, just so at least they know, either some tips that they could give these couples, or they have a resource. Like, a lot of wedding planners, they're the ones that say, oh, I have a great, person that will do calligraphy, or I have a great person that'll do your flowers. I have a great person for this. Oh, you're having issues around money. You know what? I have a good financial planner for you. Oh, you want to talk through, what your relationship looks like? You know what? You should call Hope.
Yeah. Okay. Instead of getting blindsided or trying to fix it themselves, like you said, and then not being able to do the job that they were procured to perform. So, okay. I like that. I see you're looking at a broader picture, Miss Hope. I see you. I see it.
Well, I hear it from my community. So it's kind of like, how can I be a better advocate?
I love that.
For them.
I love that. And that also shows that you have like you have your, I hate to say them, customers. So what do you call you? Clients?
I call them usually couples, is what because I usually deal with, usually couples together. Occasionally I deal with, the bride or the groom, or, depending on if it's a same-sex couple, maybe one to start, but then they would always join together and I would work with them together.
Well, then that shows that you have the couple's best interest at heart. So
I try.
I like it. Okay. And number 2, Miss Hope, if you had the opportunity to speak to a younger version of yourself, let's say 4 or 5-year-old Hope, what do you think little Hope needs to hear?
Little Hope needed to hear, and I think she did, yes. Just yes. Like, okay. Just do what's in your heart and go with abandon.
Okay.
Like, just yes.
All right. Yes. That's funny, because some people, they be like, they need to hear the word no, like learn how to say no. But you was like, yes, honey, little Hope. Yes, baby. Do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something about, not being held back.
Okay.
That like not that. Being censored as a child, to be able to say, you know what, you want to try to go down that path, try it out, see what it's like.
Learn some stuff. And
you don't like it, you can do something else. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing for the rest of my life as well. That, I think, I did hear no a lot as a child. And I think it was the best intentions from those around me.
Sure.
But yeah, I think yes is a great thing to tell a 4 or 5-year-old.
All right. Yes, little Hope. Yes, love. All right. Okay. So premarital counselor. I know you're also an officiant, but right now I want to focus on the premarital counselor part. I can only imagine some of the conversations, some of the situations that you have encountered. I'm sure you have seen some things. So let's do like a game. Like, let's give us best case scenario and worst case scenario of something that you knowingly or unknowingly stepped into as part of the premarital counselor process.
Best case scenario is I had a couple that reached out to me a few years ago, 3 weeks before their wedding. And they're like, hey, we want to do this premarital counseling thing. And I was
That's
like,
best case scenario, 3 weeks?
best case scenario.
Okay.
And the fact that they worked their tushies off and they did everything that I asked them to do, maybe
okay.
except one thing, that they knew that they had to do the work and they did the work.
All right.
Sure, best case scenario is, you say I do, you call me the next day. Sure.
Mhm.
But the fact that a couple 3 weeks before their wedding knew that they wanted to do the work, reached out to me, and I even challenged them to say, are you sure you can do this? Because it's
3 weeks
work.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we're up for the challenge. And I said, fantastic. If you're up for the challenge, I'm up for the challenge. Let's go.
All right.
And
Okay.
they did it, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, in 3 weeks, because that's like a very short period of time. Because not to mention all the million and other things. First of all, you have a life, you have a job, you have family, you got stuff going on. And then you want to combine that with the fact that you're planning a marriage. And then you want to add on some premarital counseling 3 weeks before the date. I think, and that's why I was like, best case scenario.
Best case. I mean,
Okay.
it was amazing the work that they did and how deep we were able to go in a really short period of time. So yeah, occasionally I have couples that say, like, we're the best couple, right? Or like, we won counseling, right?
One.
That couple, I know. It's like, I wish I should go to like an education store, like a teacher store, or I don't even know if they'll still exist. I'm going to show my age, but like, I need gold stars.
Oh
Like,
my
there's gotta
gosh.
be a way that I can get gold stars for some couples that'd be like, yes, you won counseling. But this couple, like, I really do look at that as one of my strongest couples, just because like that timing and the difficulty of the work didn't scare them in any way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks in, I'm scared to ask, what's the worst case scenario?
The worst case is, couples that really tend to take the corner of the rug and just shove a bunch of stuff under there and then put that corner of the rug down. So it was unfortunate. And it was around the same period of time. I want to say this was a good 5 years ago. I had 2 back-to-back couples that I didn't think were prepared for marriage. So I told both of them, I think that you guys need to take the time that you need and do your own work. And then that work would have been therapy. And I'm not a therapist. So it's kind of like, hi, I'm happy to refer you to someone, or if you have somebody that you work with, there's issues that each of you have individually. So it's going to be really challenging to do the work that I do with you as a couple.
Right.
One of the couples was open to that. They actually paused with me. I gave them their money back, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Because they prepaid a package with me. And I said, your choice. Do you want to bank that money for later and come back? Or you're planning a wedding, maybe? Do you want to use that money for something else? And I'm happy to refund the stuff that, for the sessions that are unused.
Right.
They sent me a beautiful email. It probably was 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
Saying, thank you so much. We took the time that we needed, and look at our beautiful wedding photos.
Oh, wow.
And then the other couple was unfortunately very unhappy with my guidance.
Okay.
And they came back to me accidentally, because I just happened to have been emailing all of my couples, just checking in and doing a survey as I was preparing to write a book on premarital counseling and just get some feedback.
Okay.
And then that particular couple reached out to me basically saying, you were horrible and you were unprofessional. And I was like, no, like I gave you my professional opinion that you needed to do the work. And again, like same with that couple, I offered them to either bank the additional or refund what they didn't use. And I refunded because I was like, you're not ready to do this work.
Right.
And I don't think you're willing to do this work. So that was an unfortunate, like, thankfully that hasn't happened since. And I don't know if it's that I'm better at what I do, or I have, stronger language in my materials so people understand what the work is.
So that must be, I mean, what you do is not for the timid of heart, because I can't imagine going back to a couple and be like, look, this ain't what you want. So I almost want to say, how do you steel yourself for that conversation? But knowing that this is your profession and this is what you do. But I'm sure it must make you feel some kind of way. Maybe it's just me. I'm a big old softie.
Well, I mean, it is really hard. At that time in my practice, I was still doing house calls.
Oh, so you're in a home?
I was in their home. And when I arrived, it was clear that there was either a large argument, there was a lot of emotions flying around. And I even was thinking, I'm like, I can't even have this conversation with them now because there's so much other stuff that we would need to unpack.
Right.
Before I want to talk about whatever's on the agenda today, if you want to have children, what your finances look like, what does intimacy and sex look like in the relationship? I can't even go there because the two of you are not even in the same room and you guys can't even look at each other. So I was like, but I'm here. Like right now, when I do appointments, they either come to me, either in my home office, like here, or in my co-working space, or we meet like this on one of the video chat platforms.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there was a concern, and it did happen once that a couple was having an issue, and I said, great, let's pause. Take the time that you need. Can we pick this up tomorrow?
Okay.
But yeah, so it was very challenging in that moment in their home that I probably should have said, hi, you guys can't do this. But I'm like, I traveled, 45 minutes to get here.
Hey, I'm here.
What am I going to do? Do you guys
Right.
want to have this conversation or not?
Wow.
Yeah. So that's worse. That's worst case scenario.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And but I guess you would be remiss in your duties as a premarital counselor if you didn't give them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And sometimes the ugly being not right now. Now, are usually your client couples? Because I don't want to make it seem so cold. Are your couples, are they receptive? I mean, I can imagine there would be some hurt or look at me. I'm sorry. Sorry, y'all. Mama's babies. I'm sorry. I got comfortable. That just let you know she's good. You are so easy to talk to. I got too comfortable. Sorry, baby. Okay. Are your couples receptive to when you do say no or not now? I mean, I'm sure they're grown and they can do whatever they want to do because they're grown. But if they came to you and if they've been working with you, hopefully they trust you enough to know that you wouldn't purposely lead them astray. So when you do have these difficult conversations, what is usually then the result? Are they receptive?
They're usually receptive. I mean, I'm a big fan of asking questions. Mm-hmm. So really, or I'm a big fan lately of curiosity.
Oh, good, because I'm nosy. I'm sorry. I am naturally inquisitive.
There you go. There you go. So a lot of times lately, and it came out of a couple that I worked with earlier this year, where we talked about curiosity, and I noticed that I then started saying to couples more regularly, I'm curious if, or I'm curious how this works, or I'm curious just to kind of dig a little bit deeper.
Yes.
And then sometimes there's an aha moment, and sometimes there's not. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, couples are receptive. I mean, I would be doing them a disservice if I glossed over something, or if I did that, lift up the corner of the rug and just shoved it under and say,
that's the worst.
So, I mean, even with a couple that I worked with recently, there's a disconnect about the time that they spend together. There's a lot of work-life balance concerns right now, especially as we're coming out of pandemic. Couples spend a lot of time together, living and working from home. So there's just this understanding of like that, well, we're in the same space, but like, are you spending quality time together, or are you just sharing space?
Yes. My goodness.
So there's a couple that I'm currently working with that there's a very big disconnect there. So, we spoke about it in our last session just to kind of see each other's side. One of the pair spoke about, what they felt. And then I just kind of opened it up for the other to share. Just for that awareness. I mean, I took notes about it, so I know I need to go back to that conversation. But just, that was my curiosity to go, okay, what is this? And, and how deep can we go?
Yes. I mean, I guess it's your responsibility, right? Like, it's your job to poke holes in all the theories. It's your job to stir the wasp nests to get
Not
to
really. I don't want to stir the wasp's nest.
Okay.
If there's no nest, if there are no wasps.
Okay.
So my goal is not to to test the strength of the relationship. If a couple says we're good here in a certain topic, or we just need a little bit of work in this topic, I'm like, fantastic. Then let me just give you some tools that you may need, rather than say, oh, really? You think you're good here? Huh. Let me try this on.
Wait. But what if you can see, what if they're glaringly, obviously in denial, like you can see with your eyes, but they both are like, we're good. But you like, so then can you be like, I'm curious about.
Yes, exactly. I'm curious how that works, what that situation does. Like, hey, if that happens on a regular basis, is that a problem?
Yes. And I can imagine, because you used the word dig, and it's imperative. Mama's babies, I hope y'all listening to me. It is imperative, if you're thinking about getting married, ask all the questions. There is no such thing as off topic or off limits, because we're about to become one. What's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, and everything that we do from now on will impact each other in some way, shape, or form. So I need to know all the things. If you pick your boogers, I want to know about. I need all the things. And you know what? I fault Disney and Pixar and all those other movies, because you grow up and you're watching these movies and they're so romanticized and all these other things, and you have you start forming some conceptions and forming some expectations that may or may not be realistic as it pertains to marriage. You preaching to the choir, girlfriend.
Yes.
Talk about
it. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the big conversations I have with my couples is about roles in the relationship.
Oh gosh.
What do you bring to the table? What are you really good at? And then how does that translate into the roles? And then even if you're strong at it and you're skilled at it, do you even want to do it?
It is so imperative. Another discussion that people need to have, because there's been such a shift, and I don't want to say old school, because I guess I'd be dating myself, but I guess I am kind of old school. But there's such a shift with the newer generation as it pertains to, what a man is supposed to do, what a woman is expected to do in a marriage. So once again, you have two worlds that are about to collide to try to become one, right? Those are some questions that you're going to need to ask, and some conversations that you're going to have with one another to have an understanding of, okay, maybe I'm placing an expectation upon my partner that is unfair or unrealistic. How do we both win? So, just like we did earlier, we play a game. Worst case and best case scenario. Worst case scenario as it pertains to two lovebirds. I'm so in love. I don't even need a ring. He could buy me string, and I'm gonna wear the string. So because they do, that's how it be. Crazy in love, right? So worst case scenarios as it pertains to couples coming in with maybe some unrealistic expectations or preconceived notions due to that doggone Disney. I love y'all Disney, but y'all, some of this stuff is ridiculous. So best case and worst case scenarios.
It's really figuring out what an individual needs, and making sure that's very clear to both partners. I mean, I start out with communication
big
in the first session of counseling, because I really find that if a couple can't talk, if they can't listen, we really can't have an in-depth conversation about any of the larger topics. And then a lot of couples have very different modes of communication. Sometimes couples feel like they're really clear and they're just not. So it's really first and foremost really explaining what you need, who you are and what those needs are. And then there is sometimes a disconnect. I mean, the one that the couple that's kind of coming to mind for me is a couple that had a really they had different expectations around decision making.
Okay.
That one of the pair felt that they needed to make all of the decisions, and that was it. And then the other was like, wait, what about me?
Yeah.
So pardon, everything's ringing.
You're fine.
So yeah, it was looking at what decision making was for each of them, what was appropriate, what was expected, where the needs were, and then to see if there was a possible negotiation around that. The other side was a couple, a lot of times in the roles conversation, I ask my couples if they feel that what they bring to the relationship, if they get out of the relationship, what they put into the relationship.
Okay.
And then sometimes there was one couple that I was working for that, one of the pair said, nope, it's very unequal, but you know what? I don't care. I just want to be with them. And I'm very happy doing whatever I need to make sure that they're happy.
Okay. And I have questions, but I'm gonna leave that alone.
but there was something that was very genuine about it.
Okay.
That it wasn't that the other was taking advantage.
Okay.
Like I felt it was a healthy, it was a healthy thing, not an unhealthy, oh, you would do anything, for them, to get them or to keep them.
Okay.
And there really wasn't, anything about, well, sure, I know he or she's going to do everything for me, so I can just sit back and eat bonbons.
Right. Okay, good. It
wasn't that. It was I don't care if it's fair. Like, I love this person and I will do I'll do whatever I need to.
Aww.
That was just kind of lovely that I was like, okay. Cause first, you get that, that first red flag, you're like, whoa.
Yes.
But, and for the most part, equality comes up a lot with my couples. This idea about balanced and fair comes up with a lot of my couples, but yeah, for the most part with that particular couple, it was like, nah, I'm good.
I love it then. Say less. Say less. So, yeah. I know, I don't know if is it taboo to talk about divorce in premarital counseling?
No, actually, it's like, that's probably like one of the last questions I ask. Well, the
Okay.
first question I ask when I work with my couples is, why do you want to get married? Like, why even do it?
Right.
So the last question, like right as we're finishing our work, I usually say, what do you feel may need to happen that would constitute divorce?
So basically, what are your deal breakers?
We go into a little bit of deal breakers, and I usually, their last assignment or task. Sometimes couples call it homework, or I had one couple that called it hope work.
Oh, okay.
I know, I looked at too, is looking at their must-haves, things that they have to have in the relationship, and then deal breakers. But other things that may warrant divorce, even if it's just, falling out of love or not wanting the same things anymore, which may not be in that deal breaker camp.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's the way that I created this program was looking at the topics that tend to cause divorce.
Okay.
So I do say divorce because it is primarily a scare tactic to go, hi, can we really, look at what your relationship is and areas that could be improved, areas that could be strengthened, so you don't fall into the statistics.
So, statistics. What are like some of the biggest causes of divorce? If that's something you know off the top of your head, if not, I could Google.
Well,
no big deal.
it's the topics that we cover.
Oh, really?
So I mean, those are the main reasons why couples get divorced. So I mean, can you name a few?
Communication.
Yeah.
We didn't mention it, but finances.
Yep.
And
I've mentioned a few already, so I gave you a little leg up.
Right. You said, you did mention sex, right?
I did.
Is that one of them?
It is. I like to think of it as a larger piece of intimacy. So both of the emotional and the physical side.
And then I think you just said one just a few minutes ago. I feel like I'm in school again, all
That's
over
okay.
again.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that to you. Decision making for sure.
Decision making, yes.
Roles in the relationship.
Okay.
Family relationships. Because I have a couple that was dealing with that one, and they were fine for a while until right before they were planning their wedding, right before their wedding, all of a sudden, all of these issues around family came up. Yep.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty. Child raising and parenting.
Okay, yeah.
Time spent together in social activities.
And you mentioned that at the beginning. Yes. Look at you like a good teacher. You was like all about full circle. You go, girl.
I do try. And then usually round it out with beliefs and values.
Okay. I mean, I guess that would have to be huge. I mean, if you're going to be coming together as one, you want to at least be aware of, if I want to say in agreement with, I guess you kind of have to be, right? Yeah, man. So there's so much to consider. So mama's babies, I hope y'all paying attention. She's giving us all the good, the pearls of wisdom. If you're considering getting married, if this is something, even if it's on a short-term list or long-term goal list, these are things that you need to consider. So I know I ask because some people, I asked because I was nosy. I was like, are you married? And you said no. And I was like, okay, I do know that some people might feel some kind of way about seeing someone who is not married and getting advice about something so huge, right? But then at the same time, it is clear from what we have just talked about, your knowledge, your experience, your pedigree, that you know what you're talking about.
I know what I'm talking about. And you don't necessarily have to live it, but it's more about relationships as a whole. And we have a ton of relationships, and we usually put on a whole different set of hats depending on, who we're in relations with, whether it be family or coworkers or friends or, a lover.
Yes.
So, I mean, that was always very clear for me. And then I can really then just look at, just the romantic relationship. Like that's most important to me because I'm working with a couple at the time and making sure that their relationship is as strong as it needs to be. But yeah, we kind of look at, through time spent together in social activities, we're looking at friendships. With family relationships, we're totally looking at family. And then as we talk about parenting, we're looking at potentially, this married couple taking on the role of a parent. So what is that?
What does it look like? All the things. And if you thought that you asked too many questions, you didn't. Ask some more, and then go home and think about it, and then write notes, and then ask some more. Seriously.
I take a lot of notes in the sessions with my couples. And then I give them the notes either later in the day or the next day, depending on what time their session is. But occasionally I do have couples that, take massive amounts of notes or have a laptop in the session and they're like typing.
That would be me. I promise that would be me, because I don't trust this thing to remember anymore. So sometimes I have to write it down because
but a lot of times couples see that I'm taking notes and they're like, oh, I don't have to take. Oh, you're taking notes? Awesome. Great. I'm going to stop taking notes. And I'm like, no, your notes are different than my notes. Like,
yes. Different perceptions.
Yes. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, it would be good to have both. I did have a couple the other day, actually, that say, because my notes are really in depth. And I had one future bride say, like, wow, these notes are really good. I didn't even notice you taking them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm good. I'm good.
Yes, ma'am. So you get to play the premarital counselor, but then you get to officiate. It's like you get to be a part of their special day. So my question, first and foremost, is it a prereq that the people who you officiate, you would have to do the premarital counseling for? No, not at all.
No, I mean, I was going to for a while. I said, you know what? It's so important. Like, why don't I require it? And then I said, well, like, why is that my decision?
Okay.
So I said, you know what? Like, when I meet with any officiant, like any wedding couple or any couple that's looking for me to potentially officiate, I mention it and say, hey, I do this too. I don't require it, but this is a great opportunity in your relationship to talk about the future, and even stuff that you already said, like, this is your past, like anything that you probably should have said already or should have shared or should have asked, like, this is your opportunity to do it. And if you want to do it with me, I'm happy to guide it. If you want to, like, open up a nice bottle of wine or, pour a nice tea or whatever your jam is, like, do that and have a really in-depth conversation without any distractions and talk about what the future is. So, again, like, I find that couples know what's best for them. Sometimes I prove them wrong, but sometimes they prove me right. Like, there was a couple early on in my practice that were like, you know what, we need one session. And I was like, really?
Right?
I don't think so. My sessions, I do 4. Now I do 5, but early on, I was able to, I think I dig in a little bit deeper now. And I also have more tools to give my couple. So I had to add a session, but that couple was right. I was like, oh, they only needed one. They only needed one session.
Wow.
I was like, are you guys good in these things? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, great. And they're like, but here we kind of would love a little guidance.
Okay.
Great. Fantastic. Let's do it.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned tools. Now I do have a question, because early you mentioned, but I don't think we talked about this yet. And if this is not something that is ready for the public, then you just say, not right now, baby. But you mentioned something about you were writing a book.
I did, and I knew you were going to go there. I had a couple that reached out to me, and one of the pair really wanted to do the work, and the partner did not. So they actually said, hey, do you have a book that I could use? Because like I want to do this, but they don't.
Okay.
I started writing a book and I kind of paused just because, it got overwhelming for me to go, doing this work and then writing about it and, figuring out the best way. Like, I feel like I need more assistance. So I don't know if any of the babies out there may need, want to give me a little bit more guidance on. So yeah, I have I think 5 chapters written, but it's figuring out, is it a workbook? Is it, is it self-published? Like, is there a publisher? Is there a need for it? So I mean, like, I felt like I needed to at least start. And it's also, I write so many blog posts that it's like so many of the things could be in there. So yeah, I know.
No, but
Stop
I
making
feel
those
like
faces.
I'm gonna have to fuss anyway. Just let me get it off my chest. First of all, is there a need for it? Yes, ma'am, because there's a need for you. Flat point blank period. There are so many blog posts. Great. Guess what? You wrote them though, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's yours. Pull it together, pull your resources. Thirdly, write. Don't necessarily, I'm not saying that you are worried about it. Don't worry about chapter this, order, blah, 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 blah. Write. Basically, word vomit, get it all out, and then you can worry about the packaging. Next, self-publishing is great. Now, if you want to go get a publisher, great. And I'm saying this, okay, so I'm an author. I've written a book. I'm not just talking off the side of my neck or whatever. Self-publishing is great. Get it out there. And you would be surprised. You would be surprised. So if anything, I just want to encourage you to push forward. You said that you have 5 chapters written. Then guess what? Write 5 chapters. That's part 1. Publish it. And then come back with a part 2. I'm just saying. I want to encourage you to do it, girlfriend. Why not? Because I feel like, okay, so the hour's almost up, by the way. It flew by. You're so easy to talk to. But just from the little bit that we've already discussed, it's like you're just like this wealth of wisdom. So why not get paid for it? I'm not saying that's the main.
No, I know, but it is a larger reach. I mean, I do have to say that this idea of virtual sessions, especially during the pandemic, was kind of eye-opening for a lot of people, because I've been doing virtual sessions for 6 years, but I think the pandemic's kind of opened it up to being able to. I mean, most of my couples right now are down south or out west, and I'm in New York. So, but there are, like, especially for those couples that either, one of the pair really wants to do the work and the other doesn't, or there may be financial constraints. Like, yes, and yes. Okay, it's back on the to-do list.
Good. Do it, girlfriend. You got this. I'm excited. And when you do, you can come back to We Are Not So Different, and we can do a whole little media blitz for you. Okay. And we're going to use it to promote and tell people about your service. So speaking of, while we're here, well, let me ask this first. Is there anything else coming down the pipeline that we need to know about? We're naturally inquisitive over here. Anything else you're working on?
No. I mean, I think now that the world is reopening and folks are getting married, like, it's people are starting to consider, what their weddings look like and then what their marriages look like. So it's an exciting time.
Yes, excellent. So I want you to use this time to tell my listeners and or viewers, where can they find you? Use this time, shamelessly plug yourself, girlfriend. Give us websites, give us social media handles, emails, whatever you want. This is your time.
So I'm always available. I mean, I'm not always available. I do set my hours, but if there's any questions or you need to reach out, even if it's just for a simple question, please know that I'm here. My website, my business name is A More Perfect Union. So my website is perfectunionny for New York.com. All of my social media handles are the same. It's at Perfect Union NY. Even TikTok, which I haven't really played with, but I'm holding the handle just in case I get a desire to do one of the crazy TikTok dances.
All right.
But yeah, those are probably the best ways to reach out. I mean, my email address is within my website. You can always send me a DM on Instagram. So yeah, those two ways are probably the best way to find me and reach me.
Okay. Then last but not least, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I feel like you can handle it. You can handle it. You can handle it. Give my listeners, somebody might be aspiring to be married. Somebody always want to get married. Any last tips and or pieces of advice to those aspiring to take that leap, that jump over the broom, all that good stuff? What any last tips?
If you want to write your own vows, or even if you don't want to write your own vows, it's helpful to know what your partner needs, so you know what you can promise them. So there needs to be a conversation if you don't already know, so you know what to promise. And then if you're writing your own vows, you may not want to share everything that you love about them or that you want to promise them. Maybe grandma doesn't need to hear certain things. But there is always at least one or two that you can share during the wedding ceremony that your community can hold you accountable for. And then maybe everything else can go in a letter, or everything else can go in a one-to-one conversation, a little private, intimate moment between the two of you. But especially for couples that are like, do we have to do vows? No, they're not legally required, but they're really important to be able to promise something as you're beginning your married life together.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Learn what your mate wants. That's going to be imperative.
Well, how can you promise? How can you promise if you don't know what they want?
It's true. It's true.
Truth bomb. Come on now.
Yes. Well, Miss Hope, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy lady and you got a lot of stuff going on. I really appreciate the fact that, first of all, you're really easy to talk to. So if this is a service that you're giving your couples, I feel better knowing they are in good hands, and they should too. And for all y'all babies out there aspiring to get married, you don't even have to be in the area, because Miss Hope, she says she does it via Zoom and all the other media, devices. So get into them. But yes, thank you for spending your time with us this morning. I truly appreciate. I learned a lot.
Awesome.
Hopefully you guys did too.
Well, thank you so much for welcoming me into your home, welcoming me into your community. So thank you.
My pleasure. And I'm not joking. When you release your book, whether it's one whole or maybe it's part 1 and part 2, baby, come talk to me. Let's keep in touch.
Noted. Thank you. Good. Yeah, you'll see me again.
All right. Well, y'all know the drill. It's that time again. Until next week, do something nice for yourself. You deserve it. Take care. We are not so different.